All right. What everyone's been waiting for. We've got an amazing panel tonight. The way we're going to kick this off is I am going to read everyone's bio quickly, and then we're going to jump into folks' background to start off the panel. At the end of the panel, we'll do 15 minutes of Q&A where you can grill them on anything they've said, anything you want to learn about them, or just ask them their favorite color, whatever you want to ask them about. We're going to kick off tonight with Carrie. I'll go in order. Carrie is a passionate, results-driven sales leader with over 15 years of experience in the tech sector. She began her sales career at IBM and has since held various roles in tech organizations, and we'll talk about that. She has built and led high-performing sales teams for innovative companies like LinkedIn, Hired, and now she's at Square. Carrie dedicates time to charity organizations with causes that are important to her, like the Arena Foundation and CAMH. Welcome, Carrie. Next, we have Mislav. Over 20 years of experience building and leading software solutions businesses in the financial services tech sector. Mislav was appointed president of PayProp Canada in 2017 to lead the expansion for an international fintech solution provider. Prior to PayProp, Mislav led sales engineering at VersaPay. Mislav's first venture into fintech was at a partner at Factivera, a payment automation and cash management solution provider. In that capacity, Mislav oversaw the vision, strategy, growth from startup to onwards, ultimately serving hundreds of Fortune 2000 customers throughout North America. Thank you, Mislav. All right, Jacko. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Whatever you do.
Whatever works. All right, Jacko is the founder of Winning by Design and the author of Blueprints of a Sales SaaS Organization. He's the youngest in a family of 8, raised in a small farmer's village in the Netherlands. He had the opportunity to represent his country in 2 World Championships triathlon. He now lives and works in Silicon Valley. His company helps hundreds of companies, big and small, design and build scalable sales organizations. Thank you, Jacko.
Thank you.
And lastly, we've got Dan, also known as DVD, is an enterprise account executive. Dan Van Dam is an enterprise account executive representing LinkedIn Sales Solutions. He began his sales career over 20 years ago, immediately after graduating from UWO's University of Western Ontario's biochemical engineering program. He's a proud father of 3 young kids and sits on the corporate board for Make-A-Wish, the Parent Advisory Board for Sick Kids Hospital, and the Marketing Board for Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada. One thing not on his LinkedIn profile is that he, in fact, ran with the Bulls in Pamplona, Spain in 1998. Thank you, Dan.
Good job. On that board, huh? Yeah.
Okay, so let's get started on the panel. Let's jump right into things. And as we do, I want to shed some light on how we came up with the theme and specifically the title for tonight. And I think oftentimes we'll get sidelined with focusing on what's the proper formula for starting a career, how in fact do you grow into a successful sales career, how in fact have you guys gotten to the point where you are today, and what is the formula? Where oftentimes there isn't a formula and there is no how. They're not linear and everyone has different experiences. So tonight, I'm hoping to learn from each one of your experiences, and then everyone here can translate that into their own experiences and their own expertise. So it's not a formula, it's not an instruction guide. It's a set of experiences and life lessons that you can translate to other people. Let's jump into Dan. Dan, right now you're focused on enterprise selling on LinkedIn. I know you've recently changed roles, so I want you to shed some light on what the transition has been from what you're previously doing at LinkedIn to what you'll now be doing at LinkedIn.
Yeah, sure, thank you. So, been with LinkedIn for 3.5 years in an enterprise sales role for our sales solution, which if any of you are familiar with LinkedIn Sales Navigator, that's the tool that I focus on. And I'm actually in transition right now, so October 1st is my official start date in the new role. And the new role will entail me working more or less in an overlay capacity, supporting our LinkedIn sellers across the US and Canada, and Microsoft sellers. So Microsoft acquired us for $26 billion a couple of years ago, and this is now the culmination of that acquisition. Now integrating our solutions into the Microsoft suite, And so I'm now part of this new group, tactical group, that is strategic group, I should say, that's approaching some of our largest opportunities and working with our sellers to see them through.
And you're still carrying a quota today.
I am still carrying a quota, much larger quota now in my new role. So even though I don't directly own direct communications with the end users, LinkedIn and Microsoft will be supporting them in those strategies.
Perfect. And coming from, when we had our conversation, understanding your background, you started your career in sales and then went into an operational role, founding your own company, and working on that for a few years, and then jumping back into sales. Would love to hear your experience doing that, and what did you learn jumping out of sales? Did that give you a different perspective when you came back to sales? And do you think that's something that you recommend to others to work in a different function, to understand what it's like to buy technology or buy products, not necessarily always in a selling capacity?
Yeah, I like to think of myself as a serial learner. So when I started my own company, it was at a time that I felt was good for me personally. Some might disagree. I just had my firstborn and was expecting my second. May not necessarily be the best time for everybody to make that decision, but at that point in time, it made sense for me financially to go ahead and take a chance and start that business. And it was two of us literally that started that business, and me selling, me responsible for marketing and sales. My partner was more the operational type guy, and we both had engineering degrees, but I've always been in sales. So I started selling, and we quickly grew from two guys with no customers to 1.8 million in 2.5 years. So hyper growth. We had 14 employees in Toronto and 40 in India. It's a long story, too long for tonight, but an incredible learning experience, managing that office and essentially being involved in something that was very fast growing, that I now take with me back into my sales role. And the reason I got back into a sales role, working for an enterprise organization, is another topic, probably too long for tonight's discussion. But at that point, it was time for me to get into go back to some stability, because we did find some rockiness in that hyper growth. So I did go back to a sales role, and it actually benefited me greatly, having gone through that experience and having learned from all those challenges in running operations.
And this translates well into something that Jocko shared with me, which is when talking on the panel, it's probably best to highlight who's a practitioner, right? Who's an expert at something. So practitioner is someone that's currently in the role doing it, and it can be anything from building a team, starting a company, to who's an expert, who's done this multiple times and has figured out a repeatable process, to who's a person who worked for a company who'd done it. So I'd love to get your take on that and how you broke it down to into those three categories.
Sure. Folks, what you'll find a lot of times on stages like these are people who share their best practices. You go home and you take these best practices with you. You want to implement something. But there's also a stage where we can share bad practices. You just don't know it. I've been in more than one of these occasions when I hear people talk about, you know what, we need to do more cold calling. We need to do more cold outbound email and so on. We have all kind of evidence that point that is not the right way to go about. I'm not saying that cold calling is not one of great examples. In certain markets, it still is. In order for you to learn which advice to take, you need to know, has this person actually done it before themselves? Before I take your advice, do you know what it means to write an outbound cold email to go to 1,000 people? Have you actually done it? Most people who recommend it actually have never done it. And I think that is a good thing for you to know. And as we sit in front of you today, I think you need to always make a decision. That person has done it. Really good practical experience. Somebody who's done it, really good practical experience. Number two, that person has done it multiple times, even better experience. But there will also be people, not on this stage, but there will also be people that you find in situations like this. They worked for a company who did it, but they actually never did it. They just get really good and talk about it. They sometimes even write books about it. And sometimes they come from Silicon Valley. We just want to make sure that you're careful when you take advice. Take it to heart. What I believe in generally is when, let's say that the four of us, the five of us here, give you 10 points of advice today. I'd like to encourage you, 7 of those pieces of advice will make your company, and 3 will kill your company. You have to make the decision what to apply it. So don't just take our advice for a given. Just think about it. Does it make sense for us? And I think that that is often what we see on these stages. That's what I want to caution people about.
I'll take credit for the 3 pieces of advice that will, in fact, kill your company. And then whatever they say will help your company. Okay, I love it. And that's part of the panel here tonight. A lot of you have experience doing what you're doing and can talk about what it's like to successfully grow in your career, take new roles, being in uncomfortable positions. And Ms. Lev, I understand that you transitioned from VP of Sales Engineering at VersaPay to now running PayProp for Canada, which is an interesting shift from going just overseeing the sales engineering function to now being the president for Canada. So what's that process been like? And if I believe you're still overseeing the sales function and they're still reporting into you. So has that dynamic changed, going from VP of Sales Engineering to now president, but still overseeing the sales team?
Got to figure out what the 3 things that are going to kill the company. I think that's
You're in a good category. You're in a good one.
okay, thank you. I mean, that was my last role, but prior to that, I was VP of Sales. Prior to that, I was a partner and wearing many hats. Yes, of course, it's a transition, but I think you're always selling. You're always in a sales mode. My role is to go to market and figure that part out first. Then implement customers, then fine tweak the product, review the value proposition, and so on. So I think you're always selling, or you should be selling. I don't care what role you're in for your career-wise, be it that you internally want to champion a cause, or you're dealing with clients. You have to be out there selling. So I don't think that had an impact. Running a company versus running sales or sales engineering, it's obviously different experiences. I completely agree with you. The managers that you respect is the one that knows how to craft the email because he understands the audience that they're dealing with and what the responses will be. And then you see a number of different positive responses. You start building trust with your staff member, and hopefully they start learning because you can't really write too many emails for too many people. So I think that's a big change. And my experience kind of came in more what helped me get the goals done for the role that I was at. I didn't necessarily, so I like the fact that you open up with there's no formula, because everything I did well, I didn't really plan on, and everything I overplanned didn't really work out the way I wanted it. So all my experience in the background was, how do I win this deal? How do I implement this client? How do I do this? Versus where is it going to take me? So there's a natural inflection point, obviously. Yeah. The only piece of advice I would give you is that point never, well, at least for me, never happens in a time that you want it. So be patient, sharpen your skills, work on your skills, and only good things will happen.
And you said something interesting there, which was you're always selling. Sometimes you're selling to prospects, people in the market. Sometimes you're selling internally. This is a question for anyone on the panel right now. How does that differ, right? Someone who's actively in an individual contributor role, looking to potentially move up or mentor people, or take on more responsibility. How do you sell internally, and how is that different than some of the skills you possess selling to clients or selling to prospects?
I don't think you're selling. The whole idea of selling internally comes a little bit odd to me. Selling internally means I have to sell myself to somebody else so they can buy me. I just don't think of it that way. If you want to build a career in sales, you want to make a movement, be good at what you do. Be really, really good. What I find is that there's generally 2 things that you need. You need to be passionate about something, and you need to be good at something. Both of those combined, great effects. Only one good. If you're passionate about something but you're not good at it, then generally you're a Wednesday night American Idol kind of like entertainment, right? But if you're passionate about something and you're good about something, then something is going to happen. Now, how do you know that you're passionate about something? Look, if you wake up in 3 o'clock in the middle of the night and you go like, man, I need to write that down to paper, right? Then you're passionate about something. If you wake up every now and then and go like, oh, I need to be the first and I don't want anybody to beat me. Okay, good. You're passionate about something. That doesn't have to be about the next big innovation in the world. Doesn't have to be. It could be how you think about how to close a deal. It could be how you help a customer in customer success. That's what we're looking for. The only way moving forward, for me, to see you as a differentiator, is for you to be passionate about what you be doing.
Carrie, I saw you pick up the mic, and you have some points to add there. Okay, cool.
So I was just going to add, well, I can listen to you all night. That's awesome.
Is he passionate or what?
Oh, he's very passionate and very good.
He brought his own microphone.
He brought his
I
own
think the
equipment.
difference between internal selling and external selling is, as Jaco said, is like being that internal champion, being passionate. You know the audience, so that's the difference. You're not coming in trying to create a problem and uncover problems and so on. I think they're slightly different. They are different, but passion and attitude always wins, right?
Yeah, and I think I could add to that too as well. I think being your full, authentic, best self every day to work as well is really important. Don't be somebody you're not. Just be yourself, right? Be authentic. Demand excellence yourself. So at LinkedIn, we have this idea around demanding excellence, and there's typically 3 pillars. Like raising the bar is the first one, right? Always be thinking about how you can raise the bar in whatever it is you're doing in your job. Secondly, rally others, right? So make sure that you're inspiring others around you. And if you've got a success story to share, like share it, like help each other succeed. And then lastly is always be learning, right? So make sure that you are always open-minded. And those are typically the 3 things that I try to bring to work every day.
Carrie, coming from your time at LinkedIn, obviously you embody those, and you've taken them to other roles at Hired and now at Square. One thing that I remember, I also worked at Hired, but we no longer work there, so I no longer report to Carrie, so no conflict of interest. But you often preached volunteering and extracurriculars and being passionate about things outside of work. Is that something you think that some of the best traits that some of your sellers or people that reported to you had?
A few questions in there.
Yes, I tend to do that.
I'll start with the question on the volunteering and extracurricular. So, I know that Kenny always asked me how I figured out time to do my job and then network and build relationships and volunteer and do all these different things. And I'm actually going to join on the quoting LinkedIn over here. So there's one thing that, a line that get used a lot when I was at LinkedIn was relationships matter. And I couldn't actually say it any better myself. That, I gave a lot of my time not just to volunteering and charity events, but put the time and effort into networking. And it's pretty simple, actually, just being nice to people. It's amazing as you spend 20 years in your career, how many times you'll want an introduction to someone, or find someone in your network that might be able to assist you with something you're trying to figure out. So your network it's really key. Your network is very key, and I put a lot of time in building my network over the years to make it strong and valuable, and it's a virtuous circle, right? It's always going to be a virtuous circle where someone may ask something of you, and you're always going to be giving back in a different way. And then over to the second piece of your question around, was that the volunteering piece?
Yes, great.
The volunteering?
Yes.
So Kenny knows this about me, actually. I won't hire someone that doesn't have some volunteer experience in their profile. It's something that I'm really passionate about, that people should always be giving back. There's a Madeleine Albright quote that I always tout that is, volunteering and charity is the rent we pay for our place here on earth. And I'm a firm believer that you should always be giving something to a cause, because if you're fortunate to be in a role where you're working with people every day, there's always something out there that can have your time and use your time. It doesn't have to be, hours a night working on something. There's very small ways to give back, and that's something that I think everyone should do.
Great. I want to jump into the thick of things. Jaco, you work with a lot of companies on a daily basis. Winning by Design does, other partners at the firm.
Okay, whatever you're going to say next,
Yeah.
give me a good one, okay?
Okay.
I'm ready for a good one.
It's not. Don't expect anything. Just
Okay,
respond
let it
well,
rock.
right?
Let it rock.
What are some of the traits of organizations that go above and beyond to support their employees, to create a culture of where people want to work? What are things that employers do to make reps successful?
Yeah, okay.
Or what do you see from the best ones
Thank
versus
you.
ones that call you in just like, Jocko, we have a problem?
Folks, I'm going to tell you straight up because I see this all the time. The open floor plan workspaces with the coffee machine in the corner brewing, it has stopped working, okay? So if you're looking for the next place in order to go there, I wouldn't. And here's why. These people work in these spots on these open desks have no deep work time. They're skipping like a rock over water. It is like madness. There's a game station running in the corner. We see this all the time. It is troublesome. I literally believe that we have gone way, way, way over the top. It is good that we have a social environment, and it's great to have a place to socially gather and share. But it's not the work floor, because what it's going to the cost of is the customer who doesn't get a fully worked out proposal, doesn't go at a fully detailed analysis, because you didn't have the time, because Johnny on the spot stopped by your desk to say like, dude, did you see what happened last night at the TV show? Netflix, man, this is amazing, right? And if I see two people talk, I go like, what's going on over there? I want to talk, I want to join them too. Why is the coffee machine brewing? I smell coffee. This has gone over the top, okay? Here's what we're looking for. Good work spots are no longer created by managers who read in a book somewhere how to create a great work spot. Great workplaces are created by people who all agree, here's how we're going to work together, and here's how we feel like we can work together as a group. And you can't have it all the way. You can't have all coffee, and you can't have all cubicles. That's definitely not what we're looking for. But a couple of good people getting together and saying like, look, we're going to work in a room, which we are currently recommending to all these places with open workspaces. Create a library, load them up with books, step into that library, and when you're in that, that's the quiet car. That's the quiet room of this office. In there, that's where we do thinking work. If one person starts to come in, the other person goes in like, hey, I need to do work down here. This is a new level of creating a work floor and a workspace, not by managers, but by the people who occupy them. Mm-hmm. That is where the next great companies are coming from.
Raise your hand if you work in an open floor setting. Okay, great. This is amazing. We did not plan this. Dan, at LinkedIn, I would consider LinkedIn a successful company. They've done well. You work in an open floor plan setting. I tend to agree with Jacko on a lot of those points. What are your thoughts there? And I mean, you live through this every single day, so I'd love to understand if you agree, disagree, or what are your points on there? You don't necessarily have to.
I don't think you're going to be welcome at our office, by the way. I don't think anybody wants to give up our ping pong table or our pool table, but that's okay. Look, guys, like I don't spend my time in the games room. I did 458% of my quota last year, not because I play ping pong every day.
Okay, I'll take that challenge. I'll take that challenge. What I found is if I give people the opportunity, do you have rather a classroom to learn in, or you rather have the ping pong table to play on?
Everyone needs their outlet, right? So I think that, hey, listen, I'm all about coaching, about learning. So I think there's a time and a place for that. And I think everybody who genuinely takes their sales career seriously,
yep.
Like I'm sure you and I both do, are going to make that and take that initiative, right? And bypass those opportunities for idle chit chat and maybe not learn.
No, I disagree. We're giving them weak signals. What we're giving the new generation and audience is it's okay to play ping pong table. It's okay to play football. There's everything. We give you all the toys. Folks, it's not okay. We're missing quota by salespeople more than ever before. It is not okay when we keep kindling them. Like, no, it's good. No. We need good people. Learn about your customers. You know what I want to see? I want to see a video room where you can record the recent customer win that you have, and then you can distribute it to the company. Here's a video I just recorded. Here's the lessons I learned. That's what I want to see. I'm not saying that occasionally, like go ahead and downstairs, but what we're walking into, including LinkedIn, and yes, I am very welcome at LinkedIn. Yes, I am.
Yes, you are. I was kidding, of course.
And yes, I'm on your advisory board. But
my can go there afterwards if you'd like to play some pool.
But the point being here is, if I walk up to LinkedIn top floor, I see nothing but people drinking coffee. Okay?
How many people drink coffee here in sales? Oh, well, okay.
Okay, one cup a day, maybe, okay? But not hanging out there the whole time. Now, here's what's going to happen. The moment in time that somebody heads up floor, they say like, hey, do you want to come? Yeah, let's go. Now, I got 4 people going up to the coffee floor to have coffee, right? I'm not saying that it's okay to have a little bit of downtime, but when I work on the sales floor, folks, there's too much coffee time. We need to get back to some of the basics. Sorry.
Fair enough.
I'll open it up. Okay, so
Yeah,
Carrie.
no, I'm going to jump in here. A couple different things. Number one, the open office culture, the in-office culture in open office is one that I'm a big proponent of and have been over the years. Back in 2000, God, I'm really aging myself here. 2007, when I worked at Sun Microsystems, most of you probably haven't heard of that place. When I worked at Sun, I had my own closed office, and then I moved into more of a world of startups and different types of cultures, and I barely had a desk, never mind having an office. And you know what? The biggest thing about open office cultures that I've seen over the years is, one, it creates a great culture of learning. It creates a culture of osmosis where creativity happens via people learning from each other. And I think that you need that to, I wouldn't say to compete in today's world, but I'd say for companies, the ping pong table, this and that, there's always going to be companies that have that. There's always going to be environments that have, that type of, I don't think most companies are offering, lunch 3 days a week, if not 5 days a week. I don't think that at the end of the day, I don't think if someone's joining your company for those perks, I think you're hiring the wrong people. I think if you're doing a great job vetting in your hiring process and making sure people are culture fit, at the end of the day, those perks, they're great. Open office culture, going for coffee, it doesn't really matter, because if you're in sales, you have a quota to hit at the end of the day, and results speak for themselves, and activity drives results. So as long as you have a leadership team in place that's influencing and driving the right behavior, then I'm a big proponent of it.
Sorry, do I have to wait? But is a leader then going to tell me what I can and cannot do?
What do you mean?
Well, you said as long as we have a leadership team in place.
Well, you lead by example. So I lead my team. If I'm sitting by the coffee stand all day, how can I tell them not to? How can I expect them not to? I think people find a balance. There's always boardrooms or call rooms to drop into for customer calls if you need to. Most of my team today they do their calls at their desk, because that's how people learn from each other.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love the fact when we are learning from each other in an open work environment, right? I love that. And I think that's what we often see with the ability to communicate. We call it airmail. Hey, can I quickly read out my email to you if it sounds like? And I don't know if any of you have ever airmailed something, but if you read out your email that you're going to send to a CXO, you go halfway during the email, crap, I'm not going to send this one. no, let me fix this, right? So in that case, it really, really works well. What I find is how can you, in an open environment, right, when you have to work on a customer scenario, and you're really trying to diagnose, you have your headset on, you even flipped your light red, don't disturb me, right? You sit there and you're ready to engage with the customer. And right as you go that, the entire company leaves for a meeting. You go what? You're distracted. And what I find is that this distraction is what I sometimes seems hurt people. My point is I rather see, and this is another angle that I have, I rather see a professional environment with no echo in the room when we talk to the customers. As soon as I hear a customer, right, sometimes we hear these people working on open work floors, and I can literally hear all the conversation that is being made elsewhere, right? Derek, that is my phone that's ringing in my back. And so literally I can see that open work floor actually backfires because I can hear the microphone picking up noises. Now, if you have a proper microphone, right, that reduces that noise, power to you. What I see a lot of people doing is hey, we're going to be El Cheapo, and we're going to give everybody an open work floor space with something like an IKEA product. And then you know what? We're not going to give them the expensive headset. We're going to give them the $80 headset. I'm going folks, this is the work environment. Invest in your people. Get a proper piece of equipment, right? And so for me, that when I look at leadership, I want to see leadership bring that to the table. And not just lead by example by saying, I'm here, I'm with you, I'm sitting, I see it all the time. Executives sitting on the work floor, on the same desk. I just never see them at their desk. I see the desk. I see the books that they have at their desk. I just see them never at the desk. And I go that's not leadership, right?
I think it's fair to call it that there's also cultural differences. Having led teams in multiple cities, I can tell you that leading a team in San Francisco is very different in the Valley, is quite different to the fortune you have if you're leading a team in Toronto or on the East Coast.
Granted.
I love this conversation, but people are going to kill me if we spend an hour talking about open floors. So we're going to move on. We're going to move on because this is great. This is great. But let's move on to Let's jump into a bit about the progression of one's sales career and the path one's taken. And Dan, clearly you're still in a quota-carrying role, although managers and leaders. No, I bring that up because a lot of people come to me, or a lot of people ask questions about how do you take that leap into management. And very few people think about staying in the path of being an individual contributor, carrying a quota, working as an account executive, or taking on other responsibilities as well, but not necessarily always jumping to management. And I find that management always takes precedent. And I want to understand from someone that's been in both management roles, but also now in a quota-carrying role, why you've decided to stay in an individual contributor role, but you're still mentoring other people, and you've taken a bit more of a leadership stance at LinkedIn, but haven't jumped into a leadership role.
Great question. So you've probably all hashtag next play whenever you update your LinkedIn profile, and so many people are focused on their next play and actually moving into a management role. And I guess the question you have to ask yourself is why? I mean, why do I want to take on that management role? Is this something that I'm really going to be fulfilled with? Is there a perception of making more money? Because, quite frankly, I've made more money in an IC role than I have in a management role, owning my own company, as well as, when I look at where I'm at today. So there's always that opportunity to mentor people. If you really like mentoring and coaching people, it doesn't mean you can't do that in your current play if you're an IC. I've got a lot of experience, and I truly, genuinely get a lot of satisfaction out of sharing my experiences and my success in helping other people in my organization who are maybe new to their sales role. So there's nothing stopping you from being able to drive that culture of collaboration and support your fellow colleagues in their pursuit of success in sales, because so many of us don't master that craft. They try to do a couple of years of sales, and then they quickly move into a management role because that's what they feel they need to do.
And that's a great point. So what goes into that, right? Someone who's been down that path, you've now been in a sales role for a long time, and you've worked your way up LinkedIn. For someone that's deciding either between going to management or continuing to stay down the path of an individual contributor, what does that look like? How do you really level up and master your craft? And what have you done specifically to give you that edge to exceed quota, the pace you have, while still providing support to other people in the company?
Yeah, good question again. So I think really just, again, if I go back to those 3 pillars of demanding excellence and looking at the first one, like raising the bar, I always challenge myself to think differently, right? Especially when things aren't going right. And, I can go back to a story several years ago. I won't name the employer, but I had made club in my first full year with the organization, got promoted very quickly into a more of a corporate small enterprise role, and was on target to hit my quota again. And 3 months before the end of the year, my daughter was diagnosed with a benign brain tumor. And 3 months later, after that, I was put on a PIP, even though I hit 90% of my quota. So that was a great way to start the new year. And clearly, I had to make some decisions, and I had to make them pretty quickly. Started second-guessing my career, wondering whether I should remain in sales. And then I just woke up one morning, and I realized, actually, a friend of mine who told me at Sick Kids Hospital, his 5-year-old had leukemia, and said, Dan, you don't know how strong you are until being strong is the only choice you have. And so that was that. I set myself on a course to get back to the top of the leaderboard. I did that within 3 months, and remained at the top of the leaderboard for another 9 months. I left the organization 6 months later and was still on the leaderboard even after I'd left. My colleagues of mine were emailing me saying, hey, you're still on the leaderboard, dude. You've been gone for 3 months. So I guess the point of that message is once you start to think with the kind of clarity that you've never had before, when you think that, you're second-guessing yourself, maybe you're not closing deals as quickly as you think you can, there's always a different angle you could be taking. And if you get really good at being analytical and really being maniacally focused on being customer obsessed and solving their problems as opposed to your own success, I think you're going to see a huge shift in the way you sell.
And all three of you are nodding because I agree with that, and I think that's totally accurate. But how do you get there? Right?
How do you get where?
How do you get to the point where you're...
First of all, the story, I'm sorry, no, seriously, like, impressive.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
Particularly the
Yes, yes.
situation, huh? Yeah. Okay.
How do you get there as someone who's bringing in new reps, right? Hiring, building teams.
Let me ask you, I get it. Sorry, I'm just get to the point. Get where, buddy? Get where?
Yeah.
Where are we
Get to the
going?
point where Dan's talking about being maniacal about looking at the analytics, thinking with different perspectives, being able to come into a conversation and provide value.
When he
essentially.
said it, and for me that is like customer focus. What I find great salespeople have is they're problem solvers. They essentially want to solve the problem of the customer. What I want to get away with, and what I want to, well, not away with, I want to bring up the realization that like this whole quota thing and hitting quota thing, folks, I've managed plenty of sales team and I manage more companies nowadays that have quota. It's a farce. If you see how people come up with quota, it is not like some extensive formula that come up like with the production. It's like, you know what, we got 10 million, we got 4 people, 10 divided by 4, 2.5 each. Do you think that works? Yeah. What are you getting closed? Well, I closed about 4 deals a month. Okay, that seems to be working. Like, boom, there comes your quota. It is not the case. So if we keep handing out quotas like this, and you know what is even worse? We then sent them to camp, right? Which is, okay, you made club. Sorry, that's not, right? You made club. You know what club is? It's for the loners who succeeded. I never succeeded because I did it by myself. There were like 25 other people in the organization that helped me succeed. If we're going to continue to focus and send the single individual performers to club, we're not team playing this, folks. We're doing it wrong. We're emphasizing the wrong behavior. And then we come later on and come to the conclusion, why did Johnny on customer success, the great customer success manager, left? Well, because he wasn't rewarded to club. He didn't get to go, or she didn't get to go. So if you ask me, what should we reward? We should reward teams for their behavior. We should reward people who help their customers for their behavior. That's what we should be looking forward to. And I believe that if we tell other organizations, hey, we're hiring people with that mentality, then you're attracting the right talent. If I'm telling you, you know what? I'm looking for people who are top performers, top of club, top of this. I want the lone producer, hit quota again and again and again. Yes, you're going to get a lone producer who's going to produce for you, but it's going to come at the cost of the rest of the company. Great, you get to $1 million. Great, you get to $5 million. That is not how you get to $100 million or billions of dollars. The thing that LinkedIn does very, very well, absolute team play inside the company. Upside down, left side, right. So if you tell me, how do I get there? My thing is, be a team player and help your customers win.
And we've had this discussion over and over again on the panel many, many times. How do you compensate someone for being a team player, right?
Okay.
How do you identify someone succeeded in being a team player at the end of the day?
I know I can be a little brat here sometimes on top. I get that, okay? But, you know, like it's because I keep running into this wall again and everybody goes like, well, you only see it maybe once or twice. I see it 100+ times. Do you know what people want? Do you know what young people want? A career in education. Give me a career, and of course you need money, okay? Don't give me that like 2 hours with a sales kickoff, and that is not training. Give me proper training to do my job. Don't just give me a tool and say like, here you go, you have outreach or sales love, you knock yourselves out with it. No, give me training on how to use that tool. But you cannot do me, which if I'm a young person, which is currently what's happening, you're my boss. You told me to send 1,000 emails, you gave me the script, you gave me the database, and you gave me the tools. I did it, no results, which by the way I was going to predict to you. Now I have no result, now you fire me. What did I do wrong? And they're right, they didn't do anything wrong. They did exactly what was expected. I am super passionate about this because of the following. This occurs 3 times in your career in the Bay Area, you're out of sales. No fault of your own. 3 times you're out. Now, what good do we do to the young generation in teaching them that? That is what I'm passionate about, because these folks come to me, right? So my thought to you is, you reward, give somebody a proper education. And not like one day, give them like 2 nights a week or something like that. Proper education to do their job. And you will see the right people will come and work for your company.
So we're going to bring this up a bit later, but let's talk about some of the skills that people need to possess or should focus their time on if they want to get into sales or specific areas of sales. Ms. Lav, we'll start with you. Running sales engineering. How was that experience like at VersaPay, and what separates someone who is in a sales engineering role from just an account executive role or an SDR role? What skills do they come with? Because it's oftentimes not talked about, sales engineering. You know, you hear about the profession sales operations, and sales enablement gets a lot of attention, and then obviously account executives and those types of roles. But sales engineering doesn't come up very often. So I'd love to get a sense from you what that experience was like, and then what set people apart, and how do you identify people in those roles? And those are 1,000 questions there, but you'll get there.
Yeah, I'll hope to get
I'll
there.
re-ask them if needed.
Okay, thank you for changing the subject. There's stuff going by after you.
This is good.
Well, it's excellent because we just bought an espresso machine with an Aerochino. And we have a ping pong table on order, but maybe I should cancel.
No, get an education. Give them an education.
No, but I agree. I think
You bring in a teacher to teach them how to play ping pong.
That's it. I think it's about, to that previous question, it's about how do we create passion? Because, I don't know, my son plays on a hockey team and is obsessed about it, and as much as, you know, he loves to play PlayStation or whatever, when he's at the rink, it could be 11 free PlayStations, he doesn't care. So I think the ping pong tables and espresso machines and so on, it's part of doing business, competing in today's environment, but it's sort of a temporary thing that people get bored of very quickly. I think it's more about inspiring passion and people that want to solve a problem and are obsessed by it. So I think I've never had a perfect job, but I always looked at it as an opportunity to learn. And I think that's what starts inspiring that passion. You make the job and you make it perfect for the time that you're there, learn a lot of things that open up other doors. So that's kind of been my experience. When it comes to sales engineering, you and I chatted about the definition, and I don't think there's an agreement what an actual title for that role is. Sales engineer, pre-sales, solution consultant, architect, you name it. I think it's a very new role. That's why it's hard to define, but I think it's something that's been around, and I think every successful salesperson has lots of qualities of it. I remember in the ERP days, accountants were hired to come in as subject matter experts, so there's another title to throw in the same bucket, to help sales close deals. These were very complicated accounting processes that only a certified accountant could help a salesperson go along with it. Some of the best salespeople that I've worked or managed with, they have those natural traits. At VersaPay, we had a merchant services division, so sort of similar to Square, but it was very traditional merchant services. And the two top reps that were making money that I still need to get to were natural sales engineers. They embraced technology. They could articulate the value of it to a finance person or to a convenience store clerk. So dealing with different personalities, being able to talk their language, different message needs to be articulated. So I think it's about becoming a trusted advisor, if you will. So and that's that most difficult, complex thing, because even in LinkedIn, I'm sure when you give me a call, I really don't think I have a problem. So it really starts by going. I've been doing this for 20 years. I think I'm okay at it. Could get better at it, but I don't really have the time. So how do you gain my confidence?
Ms. Love, you said, you know, something that I picked up. You said, like, sales engineers are very trusted, right?
Yes.
If a sales engineer sells me a solution and I deploy that, you know, purchase order comes in, deploy it, and in the sales process, the customer is not happy, who of all the people involved in sales takes that the most as their responsibility?
It depends. It depends. I think any good person will take responsibility, be that it's a sales executive, sales engineer, solution architect, implementation person. I think when you have great people, they all take responsibility, would be my feeling.
Now, but the sales engineer is held accountable for this, right? Hey, look, you designed this for me, and it doesn't work.
Well, if that's your critical role, i.e. back the accountants having to design the workflow for a large company deploying SAP, in many ways the sales engineer, and this is why they're really tricky to find, is When I come in and sell, I have to sell to a CFO. Then I got to go to the CTO. Then I got to go to the operations. I was in fintech, so CFO was the operations, but you guys sell sales, marketing, other mobile solutions, so who knows who the operator is and who the user is.
Yeah.
And they're all different personalities.
Got it. The reason I say this, because the sales engineer is being held accountable for the results in many cases, or for the involvement. You see that there's often a lot of tension on that role. When I work with sales engineers in the past, they don't just want to sell you something, because they go like, look, Jocko, I'm not going to do what you recommended a second ago, because it ain't going to work. So I want to actually only sell something that's going to work, because my name is on the line when I hear a sales engineer talk. Yeah?
Maybe.
Okay.
I think big part of your problem is to find a workaround.
Got it.
Right? So and that's why you get the trust element with a sales engineer. By the way, my experience, a sales engineer, not in every facet, the bigger the technology you're selling, obviously, the deeper they get into it. But in many cases, they'll be responsible for 80 to 90% of the sales. So they're partnered with the sales executive who is a facilitator, or let's call it a project management. What I found is that sales engineers get passionate when they see A to Z and they know how to implement it, and they work through caveats and workarounds, and they know that they can do it.
Got it.
If they have experience where implementation people can't do it, or it wasn't promised and so on, then they're going to start losing confidence. And like any, I was going to say salesperson, but any person, once you don't have the confidence, you're kind of done.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we could probably go through a whole sales engineering theme for the whole night, but we'll save that for another topic. Let's jump to Carrie quickly to, in your past experiences, you've worked for Fortune 500 companies, and then you've worked for companies with 10 employees. And oftentimes understanding what it takes to be successful at different stages of a company. What do you look for, or what do you identify makes someone successful at an early stage company versus at a company like you're at now at Square?
It's a great question, Kenny. One of the examples I'm going to give is probably going to have you in it. So definitely when you're hiring in a startup or in building mode in an organization, or at Square in Canada, we're certainly still very much building. For a larger F500 organization in previous roles, I definitely would have looked for a Dan Van Dam. Absolutely proven quota carrying, years of experience. That's who you want when you're selling complicated solutions in that. Earlier stage companies they often want a Dan Van Dam, but if I'm Dan, I'm probably going to get frustrated in an early startup or in an earlier stage organization for a lot of different reasons. So again, 10-person company is different to an even 100-person company. Are you working in headquarters? Are you, one of 5 people in a remote office? Lots of different scenarios there. I think in organizations that I've been a part of, when they're either launching new offices, being in a remote location, typically I tend to take a chance on different types of backgrounds, especially when you're driving more of a startup culture. As much as the desire is to have people with sales experience, oftentimes I've hired people who are, there's certain things I look for when I'm hiring anyone in an organization, beyond your IQ, EQ, I look for, sorry, did you want to?
Passion.
Yes,
Yeah.
Kenny. Passion is one. I look for a growth mindset. It's one of the biggest things. Growth mindset speaks to entrepreneurship, strategic thinking, lots of different components in terms of being a part of growing something at the basic level. I look for resilience because things get broken, processes go wonky, Salesforce breaks, things happen all the time. I look for work ethic. I think that's a bit of a given, along with the grit, hustle. I think that, in addition to that, probably intellectual curiosity. And if I look at people that I've hired from different backgrounds, when I say I hire for diversity, I look for very diverse experiences, especially in an earlier stage company. You don't have to come with years of sales experience or any sales experience for that matter. Depending on the role, again, people who carry these traits can be coached. Everyone knows sales is an art and a science. If the art is there and the personality and all those pieces are there, you can teach the science to go with it.
Yep.
I think it's a lot harder to teach soft skills than it is to teach actually just how to sell. Kenny's a great example. He joined me, it was his first AE role, and less than, I think, 9 months in, I needed someone who understood Salesforce to go and do sales operations, which no one in the company knew what was except for Kenny and I. And he took on a sales operations lead role and he oversaw an overhaul of Salesforce in a large growing company. Right, that's just an example of recognizing talent and realizing where people's attributes can bring you value in your organization.
Yep. Thoughts?
Yeah, so much going through my head right now after this debate started. I think fostering a culture of collaboration is so important too. Like we talk about developing the skill sets needed to be successful, and I don't know if we actually answered that question, but I think if you're looking to add to what Carrie just said, that growth mindset's really important, but also making sure that you hire somebody that is extremely collaborative, is always willing to ask questions, be inquisitive. I mentioned earlier I hit 458%. Well, thank you for pointing out that collaboration is like a key attribute that sales leaders are looking for, because I helped 9 other reps hit their number as a result of that, because I helped close one of the largest deals in LinkedIn's history in our sales solutions division. So I think my success I wouldn't be as successful if I hadn't leveraged the wider team and leveraged the learnings from each and every member of my team. So that's important.
I'll add a small thing, and I find this is very useful. Hire and work with people who take notes. I think there's a lot of people that we share things and nobody's taking notes. If there's no taking notes, and it can be digitally, it can be on your phone, I don't care, but take notes of what people are saying, because it means it applies that. You can do that during the interview. First part of the interview, say, hey, these are the 5 key things that I need you to do today, because that is what is needed for you to get this job. If they go like, don't bother about the second hour. Okay? See them writing it down. For me, it is really important. Listen to the customer, write it down. Great advice from you on many fronts as well as from him. It's like adding it together, put a list together.
Yep.
Take notes.
Yeah, for me, summarizing what everybody says is it's really attitude and aptitude.
Yep.
I think a lot of skills are transferable, especially hiring sales engineers, because there's not a ton of them. So you got to look for transferable skills, but it's attitude and aptitude. And then also ask yourself why. To your point, when you're hiring for a large enterprise company, yes, I want DVD to come join. But then I ask, why would he?
Yep.
If he's thrilled, if he's 450% over quota, and I'm sure LinkedIn is not cheap when it comes to commissions and everything else, why would he come over to Salesforce or Oracle? Always ask why. So there's a lot of the times, in most cases, superstars come from unlikely sources, but they have great attitude and great aptitude.
We've talked a lot about mentorship and collaborativeness and working as a team. I'm probably going to open up a can of worms here, but should managers be involved in deals, or should they be focused strictly on coaching? Being a player and a coach, just a coach? No one wants to take. No one wants to.
I'm willing
I'll
to
take
take
it.
Everyone wants to talk, but no one's lifting the mic.
No, I'll take it. This kind of goes back.
Just quickly, we'll finish off with this discussion, then we'll open up the floor to the audience.
I think my immediate answer is it depends. And that goes back to the question you asked earlier about people who wanted to get into management versus wanting to be on an individual contributor path. Like if I go back to, I've interviewed hundreds and hundreds of people over the years in sales, and the people who, there's lots of people who want to be a leader and desire to be a leader. And I think part of this is really about wanting to be, a leader. You can be a leader not in title. And I think that what it comes down to is if you look around you when you're in your office. As a manager, oftentimes you are so, in your role, depending on what level you're at, again, depending on the organization, you might be extremely internally focused, right? I've worked in leadership roles where I'm constantly at customer meetings, and that's a big part of the role. I'm either on calls or at meetings. And I've worked in leadership roles where I'm completely internally focused on strategy, operations, and maybe have, an hour a week to even shadow a call. So I think it is very much, it depends. I think if you expect a leader to be in deals and in strategy, they better have come up through a sales role. I've worked in organizations which have hired sales leaders that haven't been in a sales role themselves, and I don't believe that when it comes to sales, I don't believe that anything can compensate for having experience. And you have to have that experience. If you want the respect of your team to be out there and help them close deals, you have to have done it yourself in the past.
Yeah, sorry. I would agree. Depends is the best answer. Some folks need coaching. Some folks need help closing deals. It's all part of mentoring. One thing I've learned is do not compete with your sales reps, and that was a huge lesson for me, because coming from sales background and coming from competitive athletics, and look, I like being number one. I would love to have my name 6 months after I'd gone still in the shining lights. Who doesn't? I think that was the hardest thing for me. It took a long time, and I think I was a terrible sales manager in the beginning, like just horrific, because the only way I knew to show you that I have experience is to go out there and try to be the leaderboard.
Take control over the deal.
Right, but you can do it in the same way where you're giving the credit to the person, teaching the person, and making them feel good. So I think there's a lot to be said about mentoring in the right way that individual needs to be mentored, and then also taking a step back, because at the end of the day, we as manager get comped differently than that individual contributor. So everybody wins.
Yeah, and I think another thing to think about as a manager is also allowing your reps to take intelligent risks, because they're not going to learn unless they fail. And of course, you don't want them to fail, right? You want them to succeed. You want them to close deals. But at the same time, it's difficult for them to establish that growth mindset and really, again, bring their best authentic self to work, because they feel so much pressure trying to close these deals. So be mindful of the fact that they may need coaching, but they also are going to need some room, and you don't want to micromanage them too much.
Okay, three things come to mind: leadership, management, and coach. Leadership is not a function that can only be performed by managers. Leadership can be performed by anyone. For example, if one person is really good about writing email, then that person could be in that former leadership role by a group on how to write proper email. Leadership is not a function of management. They don't have to be exclusive to each other. Management is there if a law can be lifted by 4 people, but through the use of a manager they can, because they learn how to synchronize it. That is an indication of a manager. A manager's role is primarily to increase the performance of 4 people individually, but because they work as a team, they deliver more. If the 4 people individually do not perform better because of the manager, then the manager is not doing their job. Management is not on Tuesday in a one-to-one 30-minute interview or a one-on-one session, tell your people, hey, you're behind quota, you need to work harder. Yeah, you need to do twice as many emails this week. That's not managing. Now, why are people managing that way? Because we are not giving our manager the training to manage their people. We're not. It's very rare. I think that maybe LinkedIn and a few other companies are big, but most people don't get training on how to be a manager. So what do? You just manage the way how you were managed, which pretty much was a shitty way to start as well. So we got a problem here, right? Hence comes the solution. Folks, we need to look at coaching people, not managing, coaching them. Coaching them, it means I'll let you make a mistake and learn from your mistake in a way that you don't torpedo the company overnight. But I know that if I give you enough room to develop your own thought, to share your own thought, that you make a little bit of a mistake, but you find your own way, that creates a pattern in your mind of how to do it. Good coaches is what we need most of. Coaching can be trained, because like so many, coaching, we can draw from an audience that has been a coach in a sport, whatever sport that is. Coaching sits already in people. It doesn't have to be trained at a particular job. It could have been trained in sports, in chess, whatever you played. So for me, those are 3 different things. Leadership is not exclusive to managers. Managers need to increase the performance of the overall team. And coaching can be performed by anyone who really controls their job by bringing people together, allowing them to make a mistake. That last one is where it's going to be, and we believe, the biggest focus on in the next 2 to 3 years. Learn how your people, how to coach each other. And I think that is going to be an exciting place for us to be in the future.
It's unfortunate that oftentimes people get promoted solely off the metrics off a dashboard and not their ability to coach, or some of the other things any of you mentioned. So we'll continue to follow that trend and see if that changes. Big round of applause to our amazing panel tonight. Thank you.
I can't reach you.
They will be here to debate open floor offices all night. But first, we'll start with questions. Questions from the audience? Speakers?
Hi, my name is Samantha. I'm Manager of Development at Enactus Canada, which is a nonprofit. I have a question. Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you to Carrie for being an inspiration to young women who are looking to be leaders within sales, and especially in fintech, because I know it's a very male-dominant area. Cheers. So a question for you to that end. You had mentioned that when you were in the hiring process, you look for people who are in a growth mindset. How do you differentiate between people who are typically ambitious versus someone who has a growth mindset? Because I believe they're two very different things. Thank you.
Oh, it's a great question. I think when I look for ambition is usually, it comes through in more of like in a hunger form. We dig into previous experience, usually looking for things like, where they ranked amongst the team, why they ranked there, what they learned. I think there's a lot of different questions I ask to uncover ambition. I look at growth mindset as completely different. So growth mindset is kind of their ability to think big. Right, so when I give you an example of, all right, I open a question in terms of, what do you want to be doing in 2 years from now and 5 years from now, and there's someone who will answer me. I've had answers across the gamut, but an answer like, oh, I'm hoping to get to a closing role. Versus there's different things people say, like, I'm hoping I can contribute to the team. I know you're growing here, or I know there's going to be potentially, if you keep doing what you're doing, we could have multiple AE teams next year. We could have this. Just people who have that show that ability to think big, often in terms of like how they answer questions or how they share their stories of their experience. Oftentimes, like a lot of these things come through in the interview process. There's a lot of different ways to open an interview. I will often ask someone like what their biggest accomplishment is. And that tells you a lot about how they think of themselves and how they think of their own experience, their personal life, their professional life. Yeah, hope that helps.
Hi, I'm the founder of a technology company in the health technology field. I'm looking for a director of digital marketing and sales. So what are the critical, attributes I should be looking at, all of you?
Each want to give one?
Marketing and sales? Fight with each other, themselves? Digital marketing and sales? I want to make sure it's just digital marketing and sales?
Yes. Does anyone want to jump in?
Sure. For me, a key skill set is problem-solving skills. To me, remains one of the key challenges that we need in that market. So I'll pick problem-solving skills. What do you guys pick? Pick one. Pick another one.
That's pretty much for any role. I'm not sure how much we're helping.
But I think that response has come through over the last hour in a lot of the different discussions we've had, mainly around not having an open floor office is number one. What
have I done?
I don't want to get into the specifics there, but I think everyone touched on what really makes someone successful in specific roles, as managers, as individual contributors, and specifically in sales at least. We can't speak about marketing, but at least in sales. Just
to quickly add to that, we're also looking for a demand marketing manager. You got to figure out.
LinkedIn's hiring too, by the way.
Everybody in the room is
SDRs,
hiring. I think you establish the goals of what this person should be doing, what they should know about the industry, and how they. I'm assuming digital marketing manager, you want to increase the brand and starts the lead flow coming in, and you yourself have to figure out what the path is, which will shape what the characteristics of the person should be.
Okay, you've helped me develop my thoughts here. What I would do, right? What I would do is I would give a clear set of challenges and have the person solve it. If the person needs to do certain tasks, I want them to demonstrate during the hiring process that they can solve those tasks. Whether that is writing an email, if it's more marketing generated, whether that is doing a diagnostic sequence and so on. But I would want them to demonstrate to me that they can do it. If the person says, well, I don't know your company yet, I go, don't worry, do it on your company that you came from. Do what you're comfortable with. but I want to see demonstration of the skills that I'm looking for. Thank you
Yep.
for giving it. Yeah.
And that's back to your point. That's showing that someone's good at something. Now assess for how they're passionate about it. And I think Carrie touched upon that in the last question. Cool. Someone has the mic already?
Hey guys, great session there. My name is Blake Classios. I have a question across the board. Dan, you had a great point there about sales being a roller coaster, and sometimes those highs and lows really align. I'd like to get more feedback from you and your perspective, but across the board, as you were coming up and as you were on your path, can you talk a little bit about how you manage and handled those highs and lows?
Yeah, my circumstance is pretty unique, but when you are hit with a situation like I was suddenly hit in my sales career, it is very derailing. It is very difficult to find that good work-life balance when you're trying to. Quite frankly, I hadn't known if my daughter had cancer or not. We were waiting for 2 weeks for results. So going back and forth between the hospital and then just trying not to think about work and whatnot was difficult. And then coming back to work and then not thinking about the situation that we were in as a family and the new challenges that we had to address was a big challenge. But at the end of the day, again, really coming to the resolution that I had no choice. But to provide for my family and continue doing what I was doing, and just thinking a bit more clearly about what it is I wanted to do, what was important to me in life. Like my priorities completely changed, and my focus changed, and my thought process changed, and I started approaching each and every conversation with my client in a different way. Not because of the fact that my daughter was diagnosed with a brain tumor, but I just started thinking a bit more clearly because I now had I had a goal, and it wasn't just about making money. It was about being fulfilled in my work and in my family, and really being good at what I do because my family depended on me in a different way than we had in the past. So one tip I'll give you is you've all got great products that you're selling. But really get focused on your customer, right? Become obsessed with your customer and bring value to your conversation, business value. Look for business value in your conversations. Don't focus so much on product, but really understand what challenges your customers are facing and apply what you know about your product and their industry and really have a business conversation, right? Try to add value as quickly as possible.
Got someone at the mic?
Sure.
Hi, thanks everyone in the panel, especially David, sharing the story, and then Carrie, I appreciate it. The question that I have is, especially these days, the increase, because of the complexity of the sales, especially in SaaS and tech environment, the SDR, BDR, and account executive sales structure versus account representative who kind of does touches every step of the cycle. As a person who has been in sales, I have a kind of mixed opinion about that, but I would love to hear your views on the two different structures and in your own companies, how you kind of take the best of the both for the growth of the salespeople. Thank you.
So I'll try to repeat that and limit to a couple people on the panel, but the difference between full cycle sales versus breaking it out into different roles, segmenting them out to an SDR, an AE, potentially account manager, and so on. The difference between the two and why you choose one or the other.
Sure. We call them two-stage sales organization and one-stage sales organization. Two-stage SDR hands off to the AE and so on. What we find is that in large enterprise sales, and when we say large, we're talking about $50,000 ACV and above, in general, the SDR does not have enough credibility to put forth in order to have a conversation with the prospective buyer. Because of that, the AE needs to provide the prospecting role. Now, it works because the AE doesn't have to win 5-6 deals every month at $50K. And therefore, they can do their own prospecting. In order that it works even more, because the primary prospecting that happens at those large-scale deals, and particularly when we go over 100K, is word of mouth from existing customer that recommends you to talk to another customer. As soon as we drop below 50K, we generally are forced to use a two-stage sales organization in order to create the efficiency and make sure that the price versus that we're gaining versus the cost of the salespeople are in balance. It is a problem scenario that when the SDR is too untrained and too junior, it will cause a weak link in the chain. Therefore, we have gone back and we are more and more recommending more senior people to take on the SDR role, feeding the AEs with properly qualified deals while we are training the new SDRs, newborn SDRs, properly in their career over a 6 to 9 month career. This will develop that further, particularly at the $40,000, $30,000. As soon as I drop below $20,000, again, my price point is dropping. I cannot generate enough deals to pay for the more expensive people. Now what I'm going to get is I'm going to get a higher turnover organization, which primarily is going to be based on inbound traffic. As soon as I drop to 10,000, below 10,000 is all starting to become inbound basis. When you do at that point, you should bring out your calculator, your Excel spreadsheet, and you start calculating. Does it make sense? We believe that you can only spend 40% of the annual recurring revenue that is generated on your SDR and AE, the price of the SDR and AE that generate those, or the team of SDR. Only 40% of that. If you surpass 40%, then essentially you're going to have an issue with a two-stage sales organization, and you need to calculate an alternative path, whether that be more inbound-driven, more marketing, more automation, and so on and so forth. But you've got to be very, very careful with these two-stage sales organizations. Below 10K, and above 50K.
I would say I don't know if it's that binary. I think that it depends on one. Definitely, ROI needs to be a component of it. Like if it depends on a lot of different things. I think that organizations that have an influx of inbound leads, you need someone up front qualifying those. If you're paying an AE, a high-paying salaried AE, they certainly are not. You don't want them spending their time qualifying leads that may or may not be a fit for your organization. So there's organizations that have SDR, BDR, AE, account manager, customer success. There's a lot of different components to it, and a lot of it depends on what you're selling, length of sales cycle, what's required in the sales cycle. Is it a more technical sell? Is it a 1-month sales cycle, a 12-month sales cycle? And then, the other side of it is you should really be mapping what your team looks like to what the customer journey should be, right? You don't really want to have a customer that you pass off to 5 different people before the deal closes. So typically, an SDR is a qualification person. SDR is usually in our setup today. My SDR is focused on inbound. My BDR is focused on outbound. No customer is going to speak to both of them, and the AE is viewed as the specialist that is then working them forward from there. And then anything post that would be customer success, account management, post sale. Not all organizations have the luxury of having 5 different roles in the sales organization, but even in early stage startups, I think there's always, ideally, there's a need to have the SDR, BDR, one of those 2 roles up front for inbound or outbound qualifying, and then your account executive or sales representative, whatever they choose to call it.
Great. 2 great answers. A couple more questions.
Is this guy on here? Cool. Matt Kaiser, full sales cycle rep with Clio. We've been talking about a lot of high-level stuff for everybody here, and I was hoping to actually go back to everybody's roots and see if everybody could answer the how and why you got started in sales really quickly. So what was your first sales role, and when along your sales path did you think, yeah, sales is where I need to be. This is what I want to do in life?
I graduated with a biochemical engineering degree in 94. I know I'm dating myself now, but 94-ish. And there were no engineering jobs to be had at that time. We had a recession. So I started looking at other opportunities and found an inside sales job with Beckman Instruments. And that's how I started my career. And once I started talking to customers and seeing, interacting with them and helping them solve their problems, and going on road trips with the field reps who had company vehicles, which was pretty cool. They were minivans, but it was still a company vehicle. That got me excited.
Everyone on the panel. Everyone's.
We'll go in line. I'm trying to figure out if I'm giving you a BS answer or giving you the real answer. I'm really struggling with it. So I am going to go for the real answer.
I want to hear the BS answer.
Yeah. Well, maybe they're the same. Okay. I was out of spite. I want to be honest. I was dealing with, with with a bunch of salespeople who I thought were just scamming the customer. And I go like, it's got to stop like this. And being the sales engineer, because I was a sales engineer, hence the reason why I went in there, I was held accountable for the results. And so what I noticed that the customer started listening more to me. And like at that point in time, I go like, I just want to fix this. I never believed that sales is about pitching, closing, all these skills that we talk about. No customer ever came to me and said, you know what, dude, that was a great close you just had. Wonderful. Like, wow. Like, you sold me, right? They don't say that, In general, what they say is like, thank you for helping solve the problem. You really made a difference. Thank you for making me think about it differently. And when you do that, and we still do that every day, that does excite me. I tell you right now, what motivates me still every day. If I have a fight at home or with my daughter or son or whatever it is, and it's a real struggling situation, the moment in time, and I think many of you will share that, the moment in time you talk to a customer and you help them, you go like, what's the challenge of today? I'll take it on. Everything is right again. So for me, solving customers' problem has always been the moment that I started working.
I always stop to follow you.
I just say the same. Bash. Bash.
But going back to there's no formula for it. I mean, I only moved to Canada in high school. I couldn't speak English at all. So a sales career was not in the cards at all. In university, I was studying marketing. I wanted to be an advertising executive and high-level thinker and yada, yada, yada. And I remember somebody coming in speaking about the sales roles, and this is really dating myself, but they brought up the image of Herb Tarlick. I don't know if you guys know WKRP, and that's what we all associated sales. And then I fell into it because that summer I was lifeguarding for $6 an hour, and then I got a job at Bell Canada inside sales for 13. If you hit quota, it was like 19. If you're the top 3%, it was like $20. Thought once I hit the top percentile, I'm thinking I'm buying a Porsche. Like, this is incredible. But then, as you said, it started morphing into yes, it's probably one of the most lucrative careers you can have. But then solving that problem, like figuring out how do you sell. I was 22, 23 selling to a CFO of Hewlett-Packard Canada and thinking, what am I doing here, first of all, and how do I solve this challenge? So to your point earlier about highs and lows, I might be an odd duck there, but I'm the most calm when it's actually going really bad. And then I obsess about what can I do differently. And the worst time I've ever had in my sales career is after we brought in 50 enterprise deals in my own company. Me and my brother had about 12 people, 15 people. We won 50 enterprise deals. I must have been mid-20s thinking I'm a rock star, walking on water. Nobody knows as much as I do. And we had the following year, the worst year ever, because that mentality takes over. So that's how I got into sales.
So my sales career started out as an accident, I think as a lot of other people's do. I graduated and decided that I wanted to work for a big company. I had this idea in my head that you had to work for a big company with a great logo, so I targeted IBM, and I got a role at IBM as a quality analyst. I have no idea what I did. I couldn't tell you what the role was exactly. Anyway, so I was a few months into that role working really hard. And my manager called me into her office, Jackie Turner, great lady, called me into her office. This is many, many years ago. And I thought she was going to tell me that I'm off probation, because IBM has a 3-month probationary period, and I was in my 4th month. And she started telling me how I should interview for this other team that they're putting together. It had this really fancy title. I was going to be a lead activation specialist. Today, that's known as an SDR. And this is, again, many years ago. She convinced me to go, she was explaining this team to me, and my initial reaction was, she wants to be a telemarketer. That's what I thought. I had no idea. I didn't even know what sales was. I had no idea what I was doing. And she convinced me to go and interview for this team, and I did, and that's actually what started my career in sales.
Amazing. Great. We'll end up with one last question from Daniel.
Yeah. Hi there. Thanks, Kenny. So we talked a lot about the past in terms of how sales begun. We've talked a lot about the present in terms of the open workspace. So what I want to talk about is I want to learn a little bit more about the future. What is the future of sales from your experience, having been there, done that, and been very successful at it? What do you see as the quality? Because I see, we have AI now, we have AR, VR, we have predictive analysis. What do you see as the future makeup of a great salesperson?
Once again, we could probably spend an hour doing this. So each person can quickly rapid fire 30 seconds their response to what the future of sales looks like.
That's an awesome question. I think that none of us are going to be losing our jobs anytime soon. Yeah, I think AI is incredible. We're going to have predictive analytics that'll help us maybe make some of those next steps and move these deals down the funnel. But at the end of the day, people buy from people. They're human beings, and there is just so many different things that happen in a sales cycle that only a human being, I think, personally, at this point in time, can pivot and be able to address. So I think those people who are, again, very strategic, because we've gone from that transactional, functional type of sales, I think, and moved into a more strategic sales role. So those people who are very quick thinkers can pivot very easily and be able to address various different personas, because we all know that CEB tells us 6.8 decision makers now in the average complex B2B buying cycle. So just making sure that you continue to hone those skills around leveraging insights, the software tools that you are using today, but being ultra focused on the customer at the end of the day.
When are we starting the clock?
5 seconds ago.
Here's what I dream of. I dream of a day where sales is a professional trade, taught in schools, so that people can professionally learn how to do it. I want them that when they come into the workspace, that they know what is expected of them, that they can perform accordingly, that they use tools to help them research the customer more so than to push messages down their throat, so to speak. I want them to make sure that they are enabled in a way that they have better information than the customer have about their own product and their own market. And I want them to execute a proven process that they believe that they have a role in improving that process. If we do that and we give people that, then that is a great future for me. In this, conversation is the primary skill that a salesperson will bring to the world. The ability to have a conversation, as you said, between two people. Don't say it. Don't say it. No.
For me, that's the most exciting part of being in the role that I'm at. I think if we figured it out 30 years ago and we were doing the same thing, it would be the most boring thing in the world, and I would quit. So I think people who embrace that, figure it out, the early adopters who figure out how they can leverage that, that's anytime you have a significant change in the marketplace, that's where, let's call it, the old dogs get leapfrogged, and you leverage what's new and you bring out the new rock stars. Keep learning, because if you get complacent, you will get left behind, not just by AI, but people, the rest of the people in this room who are eager and hungry, and they're going to win.
I think the scared to say this in this audience, but the future of sales is likely going to be probably a lot more automated in some way in terms of, and I don't mean that we're going to do away with salespeople by any means, but I just think we've transitioned so much from a world of, if you go back 20 years, there was only cold calling happening out of phone books likely. Right? If you think of the transition of sales over the years, we've now gotten to a place where we have a very, very informed buyer. Right? The buyer, it's a whole different buying journey today. Buyers are very informed before you ever speak to them, right? That if and this echoes some of what Dan was saying, that selling, it is human, and you're going to need to be very human, very authentic, and you're going to have a real differentiator for someone to want to speak to you. I think that every day there's great products launching, great organizations coming to light that have something new that's going to help the next best thing, and I think we're going to have to figure out how we keep up. And how do we keep elevating the sales profession in a world that there is self-onboarding for so many organizations, and there are all these different mechanisms of selling.
Great. Thank you very, very much to our panel. They're all eager to participate and speak. So just very, very appreciative of having you all out here tonight. And it doesn't end in 2 months. November 14th, we're going to be having our next event. We'll be releasing the speakers for that very, very soon. It will be a great event, considering it'll be the last one for 2018. So thanks again, everyone, tonight. And we'll be sticking around. The panel will be here as well for some Q&A one-on-one. Have a great night. Thank you.